This broadcast is brought to you courtesy of amateur radio station VK7AX in Ulverston, northwest Tasmania.
Greetings listeners, this is VK3OTN, the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club of Australia, with this month's news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club for August 2026. I am Andrew, a VK3 Charlie Alpha Hotel. Details on when to hear the news and information bulletins are available at the club's website, www.raotc.org.au. VK3OTN is available on a wide range of radio platforms, HF, VHF and UHF, along with 2-metre repeaters, amateur television, DMR, that is digital mobile radio, and D-Star. These news broadcasts are available for download for up to 6 months, just in case you missed the original news broadcast from the RAOTC website. Just put RAOTC into your favourite search engine. If you'd like to contact the club, then why not send us an email? Our address is raotc@raotc.org.au. I hope you enjoy this month's news broadcast. Welcome to the latest RAOTC news for August 2026. The latest news is always on the club's website. By the way, it's been drawn to my attention that your web browser will auto-complete the www part of the address. So if you simply put raotc.org.au into your browser, you'll go straight to the website. Card payments to RAOTC, now available. Last month I mentioned that the committee were exploring additional payment options and thus moving the RAOTC into the 21st century, in line with many other organisations. At the time we were in the process of fine-tuning things along with final testing to see that all goes smoothly, and by the time you hear this, everything should be working just fine. Additional payment options are now available in addition to cash over the counter at any branch of the Bendigo Bank, along with direct funds transfer via internet banking. We have no mechanics for accepting cash directly, for example, when someone turns up at a luncheon. To ensure an audit trail, it has to go into the bank along with a receipt being issued, and who's going to do that? Certainly it won't be me. Over the years, I've been approached with many suggestions that since I'm on the committee, we should do this, implement that, and so on. Wrong. You volunteer to be on committee, and then with the rest of the committee's approval, you can implement your suggestions. Card payments are now available for all payments to RAOTC. Major cards, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, JCB and Union Pay, along with all prepaid cards bearing the Visa or MasterCard logo, are also supported at standard processing rates. The good news is you're not expected to pay any credit card fees, and the club bears these costs, which isn't a great lot. I have some personal thoughts as to the charging of card fees, none of which is very positive, but I'll keep this to myself for the moment. Peter Clee, Peter Marks and Tim Robinson have been very busy working in the background for some time now, looking at options and testing new forms and procedures to enable this to happen. We have come up with a solution that only requires a small charge from the service provider and does not store any card information online or hold the data in any database, which in turn provides for secure transfer of funds. Separate payment forms are available for membership payments, merchandise, that is, previous OTN editions on thumb drive or DVD, and for Melbourne luncheons. The RAOTC website has been updated to provide links to these forms where required. A new membership application form has also been posted to allow for the payment of new membership fees by credit card. This also applies to overseas members and is a much cheaper option than international bank transfers, which often have large transaction fees attached to payments. If your membership is due, then you can now pay by card. The new links for card can be found at the club's website, raotc.org.au. Your membership number and the reminder, when required, is printed on the fly sheet of your OTN for those getting a hard copy, and also in the centre pages of OTN. Reminders are also emailed to those members who are just getting the online edition via the website. We hope that the much requested facility to use credit cards for payments to the RAOTC makes your life easier. The service provider we've chosen is called Square. Last month I mentioned the other two, and that is Stripe and PayPal. Now, for those listeners that have never heard of Square, here's a little bit of information gleaned from Wikipedia, the free online encyclopedia. Square is a point-of-sale system for sellers with physical or online stores. Launched in 2009 by Block Incorporated, formerly Square Incorporated, it enables merchants to accept card payments and manage business operations. As of 2024, Square is the United States market leader in point-of-sale systems, serving 4 million sellers and processing $228 billion annually. That is almost $250 billion US. Square is cloud-based and offers both physical devices, which read payment card information, and software. It offers financial services and includes features designed to support business operations. Square provides e-commerce and inventory capabilities, customer appointments, payroll processing, shift scheduling, and access to banking and business loans. As of 2024, Square is available in the United States, Australia, Canada, France, Japan, the Republic of Ireland, Spain and the UK. You would be simply amazed how widespread its use is, along with its competitor Stripe, in point-of-sale transactions for small businesses. If you ever attend any of these community markets, it's a safe bet that many of the vendors use one of these two services. A local continental deli I go to, where I live here in Melbourne, uses one of these two payment providers. Subscriptions. There are still a few of these outstanding, and committee along with the paid up financial members would be greatly appreciated if you could attend to this in a timely fashion, or drop us an email if you don't intend renewing to our email address raotc@raotc.org.au. Perth promos. I've mentioned this particular matter before, however, we are still after someone from VK6 to take over doing the promotions for the local Western Australia amateur radio news. Clive Wallace, VK6CSW, is not going to be able to do it forever. As usual, we are always looking for articles to publish in OTN and what got members interested in radio and amateur radio, and hear about their experiences. Articles about any topic that our members would find interesting are always welcome, especially articles of a technical nature. Our members have many varied interests. The Melbourne September 2026 AGM and Luncheon. The Melbourne September 2026 Annual General Meeting and Luncheon will be held at the Caulfield RSL in Elstonwick on Thursday the 17th of September at 1200 hours for the AGM, followed by the lunch. The speaker at the luncheon will be Peter Cousins, VK3BFG. His presentation is titled The Melbourne ATV Repeater, VK3RTV, A Brief History, the Journey from Analog AM to High Definition Television. The first repeater consisted of a domestic TV receiver, a 10-watt high-level modulated transmitter, and a simple control system built by Les Jenkins, VK3 ZBJ. The antennas were also designed by Les and members of the Melbourne ATV group. They built both the receive and transmit arrays in one day at Les's factory. The antennas were installed right at the top of the tower at Olinda, and hence the coverage around Melbourne was excellent, with the exception of a shadow cast locally by One Tree Hill. The Caulfield RSL lunch costs $36 and includes a 2-course meal plus tea or coffee. Soft drink, beer, wine and other drinks can be purchased from the bar. RAOTC members can also bring along guests, but we must have firm numbers with payment no later than Friday the 11th of September. You can book and pay by card at raotc.org.au/lunch, or alternative payment options are outlined at raotc.org.au/paying. Please remember that Mick Amped, VK3 Charlie Hotel, has recorded many of the recent talks and are now available for those that were unable to attend, with a link to the YouTube videos on the club's website. Go to raotc.org.au and then under the lunches menu, select recordings, and you can see and hear many previous technical presentations. With the Caulfield RSL, one would be very hard pressed to find a location that is more centrally located and so easy to access via public transport. Only 200 metres from the Elstonwick railway station. Or get out at Glen Huntly station and take a number 67 tram. It's the only tram number there is. Trams and trains these days display and usually announce each stop as they approach them. The total cost of a trip from anywhere in Melbourne, using the bus or train trip or two, is no more than $2.85 for a seniors fare, which includes the New Year's price rises in public transport. If you're over 60 and haven't got a seniors MyKey transport card, just turn up your local staffed railway station with a seniors card and the friendly staff will be happy to set you up with one. It's as easy as falling off a log. Public transport really has come a long way since I regularly used it some 40 years ago. The way it works these days is you don't pay for each individual vehicle you get on or off. That is, how many trams, trains or buses you need to use to get to and from your destination. The MyKey system recognises your trip from A to B and charges a flat fee. Coming from regional Victoria, using the interurban trains should cost you less than $6 for a return trip, with the fares currently being half price for everyone, and senior seems to get it for a quarter price at the present. I've got no idea would someone want to burn $20 or more of fuel, tolerate all the bad drivers on the road, when public transport is so cheap it's almost free. It is expected that the OTN will be posted out in the second week of August 2026. Please check your cover sheet, as you'll need it for your own personalised code if you decide to get your own digital copy of OTN, all in living colour, from the club's website. New members and silent keys. Today I am pleased to welcome the following new member to RAOTC. Warren Richards, VK6 Victor Echo Tango, from Langford, Western Australia, recently became full member number 1904. The club looks forward to you enjoying a long and rewarding membership of the RAOTC. The membership officer has not been advised of any silent keys. Finally, members are reminded the very latest club news is available via the RAOTC website. Put RAOTC into your favourite search engine to find it.
You are listening to VK3OTN and associated relay stations. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club, Australia Incorporated. with the monthly news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club.
In this month's broadcast, I've had an article written by Paul Anslow of VK7AX that originally appeared in the March 2026 edition of QTC, the Journal of the RASA, reproduced by kind permission. In his article, Paul poses the question, who invented radio? And this may well have been a Russian chap, Alexander Popov. I hope you'll find this article interesting, and it's read by John Ross of VK3 Mike Kilo. So let's hand the microphone across to John.
This article is by Paul Anslow, VK2APA, and appeared in the March 2026 journal QTC, and it's reproduced here with permission. Alexander Popov, inventor of radio? Revisiting a long-running debate through the lens of amateur radio history. Among radio amateurs, few topics spark as much lively debate as the question, who invented radio? Depending on where you live and which history book you read, the answer can vary wildly. In Australia, we usually hear the names Marconi, Hertz or Tesla. Yet in Russia and parts of Eastern Europe, one name dominates above all others, Alexander Stepanovich Popov. So who was Alexander Popov, and can he genuinely be called the inventor of radio? Or is the truth, as radio amateurs so often discover, more nuanced than a single call sign in a logbook? The scientific world before radio. By the late 19th century, the groundwork for radio had already been laid. James Clerk Maxwell had predicted the existence of electromagnetic waves in the 1860s, and Heinrich Hertz experimentally confirmed them in the 1880s. These discoveries proved that invisible waves could travel through space, but they did not yet lead to practical communication systems. This distinction is crucial. Many scientists demonstrated radio phenomena, but invention implies practical application, repeatability, and intentional communication. This is where the debate becomes interesting. Alexander Popov was born in 1859 in what is now Russia. He was a physicist and lecturer with a strong interest in atmospheric electricity and electromagnetic phenomena. Unlike commercial entrepreneurs, Popov worked primarily in academic and naval environments rather than in industry. Popov's most famous public demonstration took place on the 7th of May 1895, when he presented a device to the Russian Physical and Chemical Society. His apparatus could detect electromagnetic disturbances, particularly those caused by lightning, using a coherer-based receiver and an antenna system, both designed by Popov. Today's amateurs are familiar with hearing electromagnetic disturbances on the lower HF bands from storm activity. That date is still celebrated in Russia and also in some Eastern Bloc countries as Radio Day. Popov's key contribution, the antenna and receiver. One of Popov's most significant achievements was the practical use of an elevated antenna and earth connection with a receiver. To radio amateurs, this immediately rings familiar bells. Even today, antenna design and grounding remain core to effective radio operation. Popov's system evolved beyond lightning detection. By 1896, he had successfully transmitted Morse code signals over distances of several hundred metres, later extending to kilometres. Notably, he demonstrated ship-to-shore communication for the Russian Navy, strikingly similar to early maritime radio elsewhere. From a technical perspective, Popov clearly understood the essentials of radio reception and signalling. So why isn't Popov universally credited? Here's where the story diverges from that of Guglielmo Marconi. Popov, A, did not aggressively patent his work, B, published selectively, often in Russian, C, focused on scientific and naval applications, and D, had little interest in commercial exploitation. Marconi, on the other hand, A, filed patents early and widely, B, built a commercial enterprise, C, demonstrated long-distance communication publicly, and D, actively promoted his system internationally. For amateurs familiar with regulatory and licensing realities, this difference matters. History often favours those who document, protect, and deploy their work, not just those who discover it first. The amateur radio perspective. From an amateur radio standpoint, the Popov versus Marconi debate mirrors many discussions we still have today. Is innovation about first discovery or practical implementation? Does contribution outweigh commercial success? How much does documentation matter? Popov's work undeniably advanced receiver technology and antenna use. His work helped transition radio from laboratory curiosity to an operational tool. However, there is insufficient documented evidence that Popov independently developed a complete, scalable radio communication system before Marconi. Popov's goals were different to those of Marconi. That doesn't diminish his importance, it refines it. Multiple inventors, one technology. Modern historians historically agree that radio has no single inventor. Instead, it emerged from the combined efforts of Maxwell for theory, Hertz for proof, Branly for coherer, Lodge for tuning and signalling, Popov for receivers and antennas, and Marconi for system integration and deployment. And many more followed. Sound familiar? It's not unlike modern amateur radio, where progress comes from shared experimentation, iteration, and incremental improvement rather than lone genius. Why this matters to Australian amateurs? In Australia, we benefit from a rich radio heritage, from outback radio innovation to early coastal radio services and the beam wireless service overseas. Understanding figures like Popov reminds us that radio's history is global, collaborative, and often politically framed. For example, here is a document from the USA's National Security Agency Central Security Service with the Iron Curtain bias of the time. Did Alexander Popov invent radio? As amateurs, we pride ourselves on technical accuracy, curiosity, and respect for those who came before us. Recognising Popov as a pioneer of radio reception and antenna practice is fair and accurate, even if calling him the inventor oversimplifies the story. An alternative perspective. If you agree that the spark utilised in Popov's demonstration to generate an electromagnetic disturbance is a spark transmitter, then the demonstration represented a radio transmission from a transmitter to a receiver, which occurred before Marconi's demonstration to the British government on July the 27th, 1896. However, it is important to note that the purpose of this demonstration was not one of intentional communication, rather the detection of the electrical disturbances caused by lightning. So was Popov the inventor of radio? The detector patented by Marconi operated on principles similar to those of Popov. During that period, significant advancements were being made in science, yet the means of collaboration were limited compared to today. It was quite common for various scientific thinkers to work in isolation and independently develop the same theories, inventions, and solutions. Following a presentation demonstrating lightning detection on May the 7th, 1895, Popov then authored an article that was published in the Journal of the Russian Physical Chemical Society. I quote, I can express my hope that my apparatus will be applied for signalling on great distances by electric vibrations of high frequency, as soon there will be invented a more powerful generation of such vibrations." End quote. Popov's vision was accurate, and though there is still some debate over the validity of the claim, Popov is said to have transmitted the words Heinrich Hertz from one building to another on the campus of St. Petersburg University on the 24th of March 1896. The debate stemmed from the facts that report of this demonstration were not published until years later, and the fact that no one could speak of Popov's work because it was for the Navy and not intended to be public knowledge. The Navy required Popov to sign a non-disclosure statement. So the most honest answer is no, but he was one of several of its essential architects. Alexander Popov deserves recognition as a brilliant experimentalist whose work directly influenced early radio practice. But invention, in the fullest sense, belongs to a community of minds rather than a single individual. And that, perhaps, is a conclusion radio amateurs everywhere can agree on. Remember Alexander Popov, Radio Day, on the 7th of May. This article was contributed by Paul Anslow, VK2APA, and appeared in the March 2026 Journal of QTC. I'm John, VK3MK.
Thanks very much, John.
You are listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateur Old Timers Club, Australia, Incorporated, with the monthly news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club.
This RAOTC broadcast originates from VK3OTN and is rebroadcast under a common license published on the RAOTC website. The RAOTC broadcast is copyright to the Radio Amateur Old Timers Club Australia, Incorporated, and rebroadcast is authorised only under the provisions of that common licence.
In keeping with tradition, we'll finish this broadcast with a short, humorous story. This one's entitled The Fox. One day, a fox was travelling through the forest when she entered into a clearing and saw a rabbit busily working a typewriter. Naturally, this unusual phenomenon intrigued the fox, so she approached the rabbit and, instead of immediately eating her, asked what was going on. "I'm typing my thesis," said the rabbit. "What is the topic of your thesis?" asked the fox. "It's called Why Rabbits Eat Foxes." "That's crazy," said the fox. "Everyone knows that foxes eat rabbits, not the other way around." "Why don't you step into my den and discuss this?" the rabbit said, and the fox agreed. Time passed. Soon the rabbit emerged from the den, but the fox did not. The following day, a wolf came into the same clearing. The same story, except this time the thesis title was Why Rabbits Eat Wolves. Same outcome. The rabbit came out of the den, but the wolf did not. The day after, there was a similar occurrence with a weasel. All this time an owl had been watching all this. She wondered why all the other animals had not come out of the den, and said to herself, "I must go and investigate." So the owl crept up very quietly to the entrance to the rabbit's hole and peered in. After her eyes became accustomed to the darkness, she saw in the corner a neat pile of fox bones. Nearby, another pile of wolf bones. And in the middle of the den was an enormous, mean-looking lion, who was just finishing off a nice weasel dinner. From this, the moral is, it is not the thesis topic that matters, it's choosing the right advisor.
You have been listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club, Australia. This concludes this month's news and information bulletin. The next RAOTC news and information broadcast will take place on the first Monday of next month, on the same frequencies, and at the same times as today, with the exception of January. Thanks for being with us, and we hope you will join in the callbacks, where callbacks are taken. 73 everyone.